I thought I would not bokeh the background as much in this one because I'm at just such a beautiful spot to shoot. It probably almost looks like a green screen, but I did the hike to get out here. Carrying the rig that I take with me, that's kind of my all-purpose, all-duty rig. It's a bit of a hike with that gear, and I want to be able to lighten the load a little bit, but I want to have all the essentials with me. And so this is what I've gotten my rig down to. I'm going to try to get it down even further as a basic kind of rig, but let me run it through. So I've got a Nikon Z6, and I went with Nikon because my wife had some great glass already from previous photography that she had done. Really, this rig that I'm going to talk about isn't specific to brands, it's about how it's assembled. But with my brands specifically, I'm using the Nikon Z6, which I'm super happy with, and at some point I'll do a full review on. In the last years of me making YouTube videos and then starting a professional company for video, I've been trying to assemble the perfect camera rig. And to be quite honest, the perfect camera rig doesn't exist. The rig of least compromises for each person and for each job is what actually exists. So for me, I have kind of a general rig that I use that has some interchangeable parts that I bring sometimes and not other times. So I'm going to give you the rig rundown of the rig of least compromises for my situation. So mostly I'm doing a lot of documentary style stuff where I do an interview with a client or the person the client sets me up with, and then go shoot B-roll that demonstrates what the interview subject is talking about. This is pretty standard professional work, and but there's key components to that work: soundtrack creation, capturing the interview, capturing the audio for the interview, capturing B-roll, and capturing audio during B-roll. There's other things that get delivered to the clients as well, though. Photographs is a big thing, and then also we take the documentaries and we cut them down into smaller pieces for social media. So the rig that works for me is a mirrorless camera. I'm using the Nikon Z6, but any of them in that range would be fine. I prefer mostly the 20mm lens that I'm using right now, and I got geese overhead, Canadian geese. Great to be in Canada, and this is what happens when you record in the field. Along with my camera comes the gimbal. I'm using the Mosa Aircross 2, but any gimbal of that size, I like it because of the weight rating that it'll carry. I also looked at the Zhiyun Crane 3, which would be awesome, and then the DJI stuff as well. So I have the camera, I have the gimbal, I have external battery power for the camera where I'm just using the NPF style batteries and the NPF style battery charger for the gimbal. I also need to, for my own business, capture behind the scenes things, and so for that I'm using the Insta 360 1R. And with that 360 camera, I can create some of the behind the scenes things that I need for these videos. So there's multiple video shoots going all at once. And now that the sun's coming out, it's time to get rid of the jacket. It's getting pretty hot out. Along with the main gimbal camera setup and with batteries, I also use the Cobra monopod, and I'm using that right now with that whole rig on top of it at almost eye level for this shot. I also, for vlog setups like this, I use the Ninja V just so I can see myself, and actually the codec that it records edits easier than the Nikon 6 codec. So it's a pretty heavy rig to have on the monopod, and it's just using the 3 little feet. I'm out in the field and it's holding up pretty good. I am a little worried that it might fall over, but it never has on me, never ever. If I get it balanced right, it just sits there even with wind. When I go out and I record interviews, particularly in the studio, I'll have my Zoom F6 with 2 Ninjas, one for my A cam, one for my B cam. So my B cam setup is the Z50 that I put on a slider for interviews. This is a pretty big setup to take in for interviews, but I find it gets me the shots that I want. So I'll do the work of loading in and out gear to be able to get the shots. Would I like to be able to load in and load out less gear? Heck yeah, for sure. I come from a music background, and we're loading in stuff all the time. For me, a 10-15 minute load in is no big deal. I'm used to, half a day load in easy, or a full day load in, but I would like to get it down even further if I can. So basically the setup is modular. If I'm filming B-roll, I'm not using the Ninja, and sometimes I don't even hook up audio, or I'll keep that separate, but I'm recording in 120 frames most of the time for B-roll, so I'm just recording internally to the CF Express card that's in the Nikon, and I'll use the Insta 360 for behind the scenes video at the same time that I'm filming B-roll, so I'm making content for them and content for me at the same time. I added the extra handle and a bunch of accessories to the gimbal so that I can have the external batteries and the 360 camera and all that on there. Of all of the rigs and all of the things that I bring out to events that I need to film for, this is the one that gets attention for people. I've seen a ton of videos on YouTube saying to buy a rig to impress clients, which I don't believe in at all. This is a rig that works for me, and people have found it super impressive, especially when you have this monopole or monopod and you're jacking it up in the air 20 feet, and then and they're seeing what the camera does. It's a thrill for people, and I bought the rig that worked for me. If I bought a rig that I thought was going to impress the client, it'd be an entirely different rig that wouldn't work for my needs. For B-roll, this is a heavy setup, but it's light enough that I can wield it around, and it gives me the opportunity to get shots that I just can't get in any other way. So the plus sides on this are many. I can do what I need to do with it. The downsides of it are the weight. So walking in here for like, 7 or so minutes, I don't want to walk more than 10 minutes with this rig to get out to somewhere, because it's just becomes heavier and heavier feeling. It's probably, 25 pounds, something like that. And at 25 pounds, if I have it on a monopod and I really crank it up over my head and lean it over, it becomes a lot to manage. I have dropped this one time, and I cracked a little module that I use for word clock. The module works just fine, but that's the kind of stuff that starts to happen. So could I go lighter? I could, but this works for me.